Hey there, this is Shannie McCabe from Botanical Interests. It is the month of May in my Central Florida garden. Today I am going to be talking about all the seeds that we can be getting in the ground in the month of May, but this is not going to be specific to Florida. I am going to cover the entire USDA zone map, starting from the south and working my way north. So if you are hitting that stride for your garden, things are starting to really come together like they are in my garden, or if they are just getting started, you're chilly up north and you're still waiting on that last frost date, I have suggestions for you. Stay tuned and let's get started. I'm gonna start off talking about my own region, the Southeast, the deep South, and even up into the upper South. This is an area that by the month of May is already very hot. The last frost date is well behind us, and we are really cruising through our annual temperate vegetable gardens and making our way towards the heat of summer, which is really marked more by perennial tropical vegetables or by the absolute most heat-tolerant annual vegetable crops. For instance, in this bed here, I have got some common green beans, I've got some Charente French melons, I've got some nasturtiums, some sweet alyssum. May is still a gorgeous month here. We are enjoying, these plants are just coming along and really establishing and taking off. But the opportunity to sow seeds like this is definitely past us, and I'm moving on to things that can take a considerable amount of heat. Here are just a few of my picks. Now, of course, a classic is okra. This is one plant that can take an absurd amount of heat, so it is an excellent month to get okra in the ground. You may have to learn how to love okra. You may already love okra. That depends on your exposure to it. You just have to kind of figure out the recipe that you like best. So we've got Clemson spineless, we've got burgundy. Okra is a great choice for the month of May in the South. Also, eggplants. Eggplants are incredibly heat tolerant, so it is not too late to start some eggplant seeds. This is one that I need to get started ASAP because I like to make a lot of baigan bharta, the Indian eggplant dish. So I gotta get this one going. And as far as the more familiar garden vegetables, this one can still be put in. Then we've got our hot peppers. I've talked about how much I love lemon drop in the past. Serranos, Thai chilies, any of the hot habaneros. One secret that I have learned to getting really nice sweet peppers in the summer in Florida is actually just to grow heat-free hot peppers. There are some heatless strains of things like habaneros where there's no capsicum, no detectable capsicum, that super hot oil that you will find on the pith of your hot pepper seeds. So if you find a heat-free variety, or like something like the nata pino, which is a heat-free jalapeno, that's a nice way to get the effect of a sweet pepper or a green pepper with no heat in the summertime, somewhere like Florida where it gets just so hot it's even hard to grow sweet peppers here in the summer. So that's a nice little trick you can employ. Another excellent choice for the month of May in Florida would be the long beans and the cowpeas. Cowpeas are an excellent choice if you're looking to do something like a summertime cover crop. They don't have to be a cover crop. They also could be your main crop. You could put them in rows however you like to do them, but cowpeas are an excellent choice for the month of May, an incredibly heat-tolerant plant that's also going to add nitrogen to your soil. If you're in the mid and upper South, it's not too late to start your corn. You could be doing something like a strawberry popcorn. You could be doing the glass gem. There's a million amazing varieties of corn out there. There's such a diversity. Corn's another one that can take a good amount of heat. You want to find the right strain if you're gonna be having considerable heat, but if you're in the upper South, it's not too late for some corn. Now, getting into heat-tolerant cucurbits, I love the cucuzza gourd, which is an Italian edible gourd, gets really, really long. And I also love the loofah gourd. That's another one you want to be starting in the month of May if you're in the South. Loofah gourd, cucuzza gourd, when you eat those fruit at the immature, soft stage, they are indistinguishable from like a zucchini. They're fabulous. Summer squash, fabulous. So you can use them in a myriad ways. They're very, very versatile. They grow in a vine. They're gonna take over your archway. They look beautiful. They have nice flowers. They are attractive to pollinators. They'll cover a blank space. If you're worried you're gonna have some blank soil over the summer, you could throw some loofah gourds in your bed. They're gonna crawl and take over, and they're gonna shade out that soil and cover it beautifully. May. So those are a few good options for heat-tolerant cucurbits over the summer. And a bonus with the loofah gourd is, of course, you get the loofah sponge. So it's really a no-brainer. You definitely want to put in a loofah gourd this time of year. Let's move it up the map. Let's talk about the middle of the country, somewhere where that had their last frost date more in like April. This would be similar to like the Missouri Ozarks where I used to grow. You are definitely in direct seed mode by May. Your soil has reliably warmed up. You are putting things in the ground that can take warm soil, can take a hot summer. One note I will make is a lot of folks will wait until the month of June to direct seed their cucurbits. The reason they'll do that is to miss the peak of squash bug season. So you may be tempted to direct sow your watermelons, melons, cucumbers, things like that. You're going to be tempted to put them in the ground right after that last frost date, maybe in May. And you can do that, but you may find that you have a higher pest population of the squash bug than if you wait till June and you have a later cucurbit crop. Usually typically the squash bug population has petered out by then, and that's a good way to avoid them. But if you must, you can get your direct seeded cucurbits in this time of year. You should also be direct sowing some companion flowers in your gardens. You should be getting things like zinnias and nasturtiums, calendulas, marigolds. Those all can be started in the month of May in those mid zones or even up north as long as your last frost has passed. Getting those more warm weather loving, direct seeded flowers in the ground is a great choice right now in the month of May. The month of May is also pretty much the end of the window if you're going to start some tomatoes in trays, if you're going to do peppers, eggplants. That window is closing, so get those started and those will be your latest season transplants. Your soil has warmed. It is an excellent time to get your sunflowers planted, and check out the Botanical Interest website or the catalog because we have an absolute potpourri of sunflower varieties. Direct seeding our legumes is ideal for the month of May as long as your last frost has passed. It is time to get those green beans, those cowpeas in the ground. It's also an excellent time to get your peanuts in the ground, and we could still plant peanuts even down here in the south. So that's one I kind of forgot, but let's stick that in for the southern gardeners too. Month of May is an excellent time to get another succession of certain herbs like basils in trays, transplant them out. You can also direct seed basil if you like. You could be starting your chamomile right now. I cannot do without my chamomile, my borage. I love those little garden herbs stuck into my raised beds. Borage, chamomile, great for the month of May. Now I want to address you hardy gardeners in the far north. This is where I grew up. I grew up in southern Rhode Island, so New England, we're talking the upper Midwest, farther north where by May, maybe mid-May, your last frost date passes. I know when we get into the upper Midwest, that last frost date might not even be until early June. So May can really vary depending on your last frost date in the upper north, but let's talk about some of the options that you have. Okay, so let's talk about when the soil is workable. We know this term, plant seeds as soon as the soil is workable. Soil workability, I did make a video on this. You can find that on our playlist. Soil workability is the soil's texture. Over the winter, especially up in the far north, the soil freezes solid and it takes on a substantial amount of moisture. It becomes saturated in moisture. And as the spring thaw happens and the soil starts to thaw out, the soil moisture content goes down and the soil texture becomes more crumbly. You're going to perform that soil moisture test, dig your arm about 6 to 12 inches down in your garden soil, shape it up into a ball, drop it from about 12 inches into your palm here. If it breaks into many pieces, it's friable. It means it's workable. You could start tilling or digging your soil and planting your cold-loving crops. If the ball of soil breaks into 1 or 2 pieces, you have a little more time to wait until that soil dries out and is friable or workable. And if you drop it and it stays in 1 piece, you've got quite a while. You're gonna wanna come out and check intermittently once a week, once every few weeks to find out when your soil is ready to be worked. Once your soil is ready to be worked and your last frost date maybe has not yet come, you can work in things that love the cold weather. We're talking things like favas, some garden peas, this is not green beans, this is garden peas. Latin name Pisium. Then you're going to look for lettuces, carrots, beets, onions. These crops can take cool soil, it can take cooler weather. So as soon as that soil is workable, but before your last frost is passed, this is usually happening around May if you're in the very far north, you can get those kinds of crops in. If you're far north and your last frost date happens to happen in May, I remember in New England, my last frost date was usually about mid-May. By the end of May, you can be thinking about transplanting in things like cucumbers, watermelons, melons, green beans, okra. If you're feeling ambitious and you want to try okra in the north, it can be done. Sweet potatoes, if you're feeling ambitious in the north, it can be done as well. Tomatoes and eggplants and peppers transplanted. All that can happen at the end of May if your last frost has passed and your soil has warmed up reliably. So we've got options for if your frost has not passed, but your soil is workable, and then if your last frost has passed, and so you can really start to hit the ground running. There's lots of action that's going to be happening in the month of May, no matter where you're at. This is like a main gardening month, even in the very far north. You can see behind me here in Florida, my onion tops have flopped, they've fallen over. My onions are ready to harvest. That's because we grow our onions over the winter. So I'll be pulling my onions out and putting in another crop. But if you are in the far north, you're going to be putting your onion transplants out now in May. So we are on very opposite schedules, but I do remember this timing fairly well. So you're going to be putting in those tiny little onion transplants in the month of May up north. Here's another one here in Central Florida. My potatoes are starting to finish off. I'll be digging my potatoes any day now. But if you are growing in the middle of the country or up north, it is time to plant your potatoes. Now, if you are in the upper south and the much lower central part of the country, you may have already gotten your potatoes in, but there's still time. So you can still get potato crops in the month of May. And then if you are far north and your soil is workable, you can get those potato starts in. Here in Central Florida, I am at the point where I am tying up my tomatoes. My first fruit are getting ready to mature. They're starting to come on here by May. But it's really getting super hot. The nighttime temperature is going to be elevating to the point where my fruit don't want to set anymore. Now, conversely, if you're in the middle of the country, you are probably transplanting your tomatoes out right about now, or you have just transplanted them out and you're working on your trellising system. And if you're in the far north, you're probably still babying your tomato plants indoors and getting ready to transplant them out a little bit later. So no matter where you're at, you're probably doing something with your tomatoes in the month of May. And you can see this back here is my onion field. These were planted in December. Now by the month of May, they are ready to come out. I'm pulling my onions out in the month of May down here in Central Florida. Then I will have a little lag period, and by June, I will be sowing my Halloween pumpkins. It's crazy to think that we're already at that point, but these pumpkins that I have, this specific variety, they take a little bit longer to mature. And I've picked out a specific variety called the Georgia Bulldog that does exceptionally well in the extreme heat here in Central Florida. Another variety would be the Seminole pumpkin. So I'm going to have my Georgia Bulldogs here, and that is going to be my Halloween pumpkin. Very exciting, and it's kind of crazy to be thinking all the way into Halloween time right now. Down here in Central Florida, I'm picking the last of my radishes in the month of May. But if you're up north, it is an excellent time to sow a few successions. If you're in the middle of the country, you're probably already on your second, maybe third succession of radishes direct seeded. But if you're way up north and your soil has just become workable, it may now be time to get those radishes in the ground. So whether you're just breaking ground up north or you are doing some serious maintenance work down south, May is arguably one of the busiest gardening months out there. I hope you have got major dirt under your fingernails. You better stay busy. This is go time, the best time to be out in the garden. Have a great month. Bye.